Today on Locked On Rockies, a great homestand is a nice start to the second half, but to really nail it home, really send home a message that this is a better stretch and a different Rockies team, you got to go and do it on the road.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 25th day of July in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot because that's what they do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on that Locked On Podcast Network and the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. Just like Nug Lights says, Cardinals wasted Nolan's prime more than we did, with a laughing emoji. Got some Rockies fans chiming in on that one. I like to see there. It's not a bad. It's honestly not a bad take. I mean, as much as it hasn't panned out for the Rockies, right? It hasn't led to a championship or changed anything too dramatically in the world of St. Louis. Now, great player, great career. Obviously, a lot of good baseball in that time, especially when he was basically playing at an MVP level with his co-MVP there, basically in Goldschmidt. There were some good times, but it is interesting to note that it has not really panned out in the same way, and the Cardinals are in an interesting spot. As we just discussed going into the trade deadline, we're continuing to keep our eyes on the trade deadline. The D-backs have started the selling, at least just with one move, and reports say that will not be the last. And we'll see what that means for the Rockies as well, because, you know, this is now that you were talking about opportunities for the Rockies here in the second half. If the D-backs are going to be selling off 5-6 players, that's going to be a completely different D-backs team than what you've seen before, and a completely different D-backs team when you match up with them. And well, is that mean much for the postseason or stuff down the line? Not necessarily. I mean, more so for the Diamondbacks with them waving the white flag and admitting defeat on the year. For the Rockies, it's more of just, hey, this should be a time where if they are a weaker, if this is a weaker version of your opponents, you got to handle business. All right. Before we go any further, I do need to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So, one of my main things here as we look ahead to the Orioles series is that if we want to continue and kind of buy into this being a different moment, a turning point in the season for the Colorado Rockies, is you got to go out and you got to go do it on the road, especially when you're going to against a team that has not played well. Or played up to their standards, or played to where they thought. And I mean, I haven't followed Baltimore too specifically here, but looking at it across the board here, there's they're not too far separated, these two teams here, except in one key area that is certainly going to be a factor in this series. Rockies as a team bat 235. The Orioles bat 238. They've scored 412 runs. The Rockies have scored 369. Both of them are tied in hits at 803. Here's one of the other area that's got a little bit of a difference as well. Same within the slugging department, because, you know, they're kind of close, but these still are some significant numbers. Rockies have hit 99 home runs as a team. Baltimore's hit 117. Baltimore's got a team OBP of 302. Rockies at 294. So again, some difference there as we can continue to see the trends of Baltimore being a little bit higher, but again, not miles further ahead of the Rockies in terms of in these areas. 5.01 team whip, or team ERA, I should say, for the Orioles. So the Rockies 5.50, team whip of 1.57 to the Orioles 1.42. Rockies have walked 350 batters. Baltimore has walked 336. Now here is what we're talking about here. You're looking at that whip differential, right? You're looking at the strikeouts here. The Rockies have struck out 670 batters. The Orioles 823. So again, this isn't necessarily to sit here and say like, oh man, Baltimore dominant, the most dominant strikeout team ever. But when you are looking at the fact that this is a team that can get strikeouts like that, when you're looking at a team that you can be, your weakness can be exploited, right? That's going to be one of the difference makers in this series here. The Baltimore, it's not a high strikeout rate when you a number of strikeouts when you compare it to the rest of Major League Baseball. The Orioles coming in at 22nd in striking batters out. So not one of their huge strengths here. But again, against the Rockies, that's something you got to worry about as you're looking at that. But if in case you're curious, the Rockies dead last in baseball by nearly 100 strikeouts as a team. And again, kind of shows you part of the problem and part of the issues there is the Rockies' inability to get batters out. Here's an interesting kind of wrinkle, though, with the opponent batting average. This is the bottom two teams in offensive or opponent batting average. The Rockies have the highest allowed at 294. So obviously that's a problem. But the Orioles coming in at 267 here for the opponent batting average. And again, there's only a few points separating them from being up at 25th with the Cardinals. But kind of an interesting thing there, right? When we're talking about opponent batting average, when we're talking about, one of the benefits and one of the strengths that the Rockies showed in that second series was in the finale of the series was the getting after the starting pitching, being able to do damage, being able to score runs and be effective over against St. Louis here. The Rockies offense, let me back up a little bit here so I can get you the right numbers here. The Rockies against St. Louis scored 16 runs, outscoring the Cardinals 16-10 in this. And now that the big question here is you're kind of looking at this where it's okay. The Orioles aren't in compared to the rest of baseball. Striking out batters isn't one of their biggest strengths. They have the second highest opponent batting average allowed in the league. These are good kind of trends for the Rockies if they're able to be able to have some good and solid at bats. But the question will be doing it on the road, right? This is when we're kind of looking at the shrinking the sample size and just kind of focusing on the fun that is this part of the season or this part of the schedule so far in this stretch. Okay, great homestand. First time you've done it at home. First time you had a good stretch there. Now, can you carry that momentum into a road series? Into a road series in which you're playing teams that, like we've been talking about, aren't necessarily the dominant factors here. Baltimore 45-57, they're 22-25 at home here. They're not flashing you a bunch of stuff that says, hey, this should be one where the Rockies are clearly outmatched. They on paper the worst team. The stats don't lie, the numbers don't lie. But this is one in the realms of, hey, you went to Miami, and this, again, Miami playing different ball at the time, but you were able to go out to Miami and be successful there. You were able to get the sweep there. You got to mimic that, and you got to do it because the Rockies are only 12-38 away from Coors Field this year. And that kind of goes to show you with just, I mean, that's not a surprise with how bad the season's gone and how bad that the Rockies have been throughout the year. But the last time the Rockies were on the road, they won one game. They went 1-5, I believe. Yeah, 1-5 in the Boston and Cincinnati road trip. During that time, the Rockies did not score more than 3 runs. They only scored 3 runs in a game twice. That's being their maximum in that series. So so the last time the Rockies were on the road, we saw a tremendous dip in that offense. Struggled against Milwaukee. No real surprise there when you kind of look back on that in that. So again, this is a situation here where if you want to kind of cement that things are, that there has been the improvement, that there has been some growth here, you got to go out, and you don't got to win both of these series, but you got to make them a little bit more competitive. You got to go out and you got to score some runs. You got to take advantage of a Baltimore team that isn't as great as pitching as some of these other teams that you've seen, just like we talked about with Minnesota, just like we talked about with St. Louis. When you are going into these matchups that aren't so lopsided for you like we've seen at times, this is the time. These are the huge prove it moments, especially if these games are close. These are the moments where the bullpen can prove that they got the capability to keep and win the Rockies close ball games. This is the moment for the guys to come up big and come up and drive in runners in scoring position and have clutch moments on offense. This is the type of series where you can keep this momentum going, and if you're able to keep up the winning here, you're putting yourself in a great spot to be avoiding that dreaded number that you're looking at here, especially because you're going to be entering a really interesting. We kind of talked about how interesting the lead up to the trade deadline is, but after the trade deadline, it's going to be a fascinating series of teams here, because you're already looking at after the trade deadline, the Rockies are probably playing in their first 4 series after the trade deadline. 3 out of the 4 of them are sellers. So is that drastically going to change things? Does that drastically mean it's different? Does that drastically improve the chances for the Colorado Rockies? I don't know, especially when you're talking about the fact that the Rockies are going to be a different looking team as well. The Rockies I should be making moves and could be making moves that will really shake up this lineup and really shake up the roster. So as much as we can just sit here and say that, oh, these other teams will look different, these other teams are going to do or be different, the Rockies could be in that exact same boat. And so this is kind of going to be another I think this is going to be a big moment for guys that are on the trade block for the Rockies. And then again, guys that want to continue to build off of maybe solid starts, your Goodmans, your Becks, your Amadors, your Moniacs, all of these guys, when you're looking at how do they handle bouncing back and forth from cores and going on the road. Let's take a look at the starting pitching matchup, and let's also remember the fact that if there are some trades happening, one thing I didn't really touch on a lot in that last Coors Field series was that might have been the last time you saw some of your favorite players at 20th and Blake. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Gametime. Gametime has you covered when you decide at the last minute to head to the ball game with the family, because you're sitting there and you're saying, do I want to go check out the Rockies and Pirates when they're in town? Hey, you might want to, because Skeens is on the list there. So you're like, okay, that's interesting. It's a day game. How do I get a good deal on a seat? Well, you go to Gametime, because with the money you save on tickets, you're going to be able to splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Gametime makes it possible because it's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worrying out of buying. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, and making it easier to browse the app for an exciting Major League Baseball game is super simple, because all it is, it's right there on the app. You just fire it up, boom. And like I said, you're getting that panoramic seat view right there. When you're looking at your seats, you're knowing exactly what you're getting, exactly where you're going to sit. And I love that. I've used Gametime for a bunch of big events, and you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Locked On Rockies here, back with you for segment number 2 of today's episode of Locked On Rockies, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Thanking you for making us your first listen of the day. Shout outs to all of you. Make sure you're checking out Locked On MLB Game Night, as the Rockies are part of that, as are all the teams, because it's all the teams every night, every game, every night. Breakdown, recap for you there. Okay, we're just kind of talking a little bit about this being a good situation in a matchup in which the Rockies, again, the underdogs and certainly not the favorites. The Rockies, I don't think will be favored for the rest of the year. We are well aware of that. But this is a matchup in which the Rockies should be at least confident, or hopefully confident, in their ability to get the job done and do some damage here. We'll take a look at the pitching matchup in just a moment, but I wanted to just kind of highlight and kind of reflect here. Pretty crazy that we might have saw the last games of Ryan McMahon's career at Coors Field as a member of the Colorado Rockies. If there is indeed as much interest as I've seen, the Mariners have been linked, the Yankees have been linked, the Astros have now been linked. There's been some interest bubbling about Ryan McMahon, and the same goes for Jake Bird and a lot of the other options out of the bullpen. And who knows? Could it be the starters as well that some of these pitchers, the starting pitchers, are on the move here? As we continue to navigate and get closer and closer to the trade deadline, the question of what will the Rockies do remains the biggest one, because it's still in that moment of they got to prove it. They got to prove to us that they're going to do it. They're going to prove to us that they've got to sell. They got to prove to us that they can make quality deals as well. And so it was just kind of crazy that it's kind of hard to think about that, right? Where it's not like hard to think about, like it's difficult. It's like you didn't really realize it. But with the trade deadline and with the Rockies being on the road here for the next week, that could have been it. That if you are a Ryan McMahon fan, if you've enjoyed watching him play third base there for the Colorado Rockies, that might be the last time that you see Ryan McMahon play third base for the Colorado Rockies in person. That is. It could be the last time we saw Herman. That could have been the last appearance there. It would be a bummer if it ended the way it ended, considering it being some inflammation there that had to have him shut down and miss a start there. But it was just one of those moments that it kind of sets in on the reality of where this point of the season. Of what could be next. As much as we've talked about the possibilities and we've kind of talked about this and that and the possibilities, or could this happen, could that happen, I didn't really lock in, and I didn't really think about that. I mean, we've been watching Ryan McMahon play for the Rockies now since 2017. He only got 19 at bats there in that season, but he's been a part of the club since, including 2018. He got 181 at bats, but from there, he has been the third baseman for the Colorado Rockies. He has been a long-standing member of this roster, someone that will be remembered by this generation of Rockies fans, and someone that has had some great moments and could have obviously hoping for a little bit more in certain areas and certain things for him, but we're talking about some pretty big contributors to the Rockies possibly not being on the roster after the trade deadline. So I think it was just kind of one of those moments where, we can't spend forever on it, right? We can't sit here and just dwell on the fact, because it makes sense. It is the right move. It is the right thing for the Rockies to do, is to be able to get a deal done. But that it's crazy, because when we think about that kind of nostalgia and that and how we feel as fans, how much is that actually also the way and the feelings of the front office? How much of that is still in there, especially when we've heard and we've seen and we know how loyal this team is, and how much this team has backed up their loyalty to Ryan McMahon. It's interesting that we haven't heard a lot of, we've heard the Rockies shoot down trade rumors before and kind of shoot down or say the deal's got to be right, the deal's got to be this. Doesn't seem like we're hearing that the same amount of that in this year going into the deadline, and that should be a good thing. I mean, Ryan McMahon, as much as I know he's comfortable and confident and everything here with the Rockies, he also has to be saying, like, this is the time. I mean, you're going to be missing out on the real true prime. You are in your athletic prime, most likely. You're a fantastic defender. The offense, streaky as it is, it is what it is. But I think if you're McMahon and you've gone through this and you've seen what the journey has been for you, I think you go into this trade deadline with a little bit more of an open mind and say, I'm ready for what's next. I'm ready to see what's next. I'm ready to finish out this contract and then figure out what it's going to be to finish out my career. Because he's going to get another contract. He's too good defensively, and he's too effective for a team, even with the streaky bat. And it's just, you got to make sure that if you're the Rockies, you have to get a deal done. Unless because it just, because if you don't, you're still opening that you still aren't proving how serious you are about the rebuild. But I don't know. It's just, I'm curious what you all think there. Some of these big names. I mean, I know he hasn't been linked, but what if it's a Kyle Freeland? What if it's some of these guys that Rockies fans have come to grow and attach to? Some of these guys that have been here for a while. As much as these moves will be necessary, it'll be a little bit of a gut punch for some as well. All right, let's take a break and then finish up by taking a look at the pitching matchup. Little comments on the Diamondbacks making some moves as well, coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Gameday Hue. Today's episode is brought to you by Gameday Hue, and so is this hat I'm wearing. For Rockies fans like me, this one hits the mark. Gameday Hue makes clean, no-logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, or anywhere in between. You can rock it on the course because it's subtle, stylish, and you can still rep your team. And the hat pairs perfectly with your usual gear. If you're Rockies fans out there, I know you got the purple going on. This is you should see the glove that I got. I don't have the glove on me right now because it's in the golf bag, ready to hit the course, and I'm going to be looking stylish while I do. It's the kind of hat that reps your team without screaming. It's subtle, but still says everything. And it's not just hats. Check out their split shade gloves made for the golf course, or the perfect gift for the fan who has everything. Right now, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GamedayHue.com. That's Gameday, HUE.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to load up. Plenty of time to hit the course, plenty of summer fun ahead of you. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GamedayHue.com, code MLB15. GamedayHue.com, code MLB15. Locked On Rockies here, wrapping things up for today's edition, the Friday edition of the Locked On Rockies podcast. Last weekend of July. I'm already still on the last month that already is well long gone, and already wrapping up another one here as the year 2025 continues to just fly by. Let's take a look here real quick at the Rockies in July when we're looking back here. Rockies now, of course, opening the second half of the season with 4 wins. That adds to their total here in July, and that makes it a 5, 6, 7 win month. Not great, but better, right? This is a moment where we can say a nice job. And I guess I have been saying best stretch of Rockies baseball. The Rockies did win 4 games in a row, their longest streak of the season, and that was pretty quickly off the heels of the Miami series. So June overall, a more winning month for the Rockies. They're bringing in, what is this, 10 wins? Looks like 10 wins there in July or in June. And if we don't need to go any further back than that. So Rockies still in a spot here, if they can be successful over these last 2 series, to back-to-back double-digit win months, really start putting the, I know how kind of pathetic that sounds, right? I mean, because it really is. It really is just kind of finding the small little things to be excited about. Because, I mean, oh boy, it's not great. But there is some good improvement, and there is some good stuff. And like we said, a nice week of Rockies baseball on the homestand. Let's see if the Rockies can do it here with Kyle Freeland on the bump, looking to improve on his 2-10 win-loss record with a 5.19 ERA, a whip of 1.53 over 95 innings pitched. He's allowed 121 hits, only struck out 70, walked 25, and allowed 10 home runs. Dean Kremer here is going to be the starter for the Orioles, and some of the stuff I would say this is kind of a middling pitcher, not necessarily someone that has stuff or these numbers aren't necessarily blowing you away, especially when you're looking at 115 innings pitched, so 10 more than Kyle Freeland. What is that? No, 20 more innings pitched than Kyle Freeland, but has allowed the 14 home runs, has the 30 walks there, has the amount of hits that have been given up, 114 as well. Kyle, of course, giving up more and doing the damage. It's some stuff that we know, but 30 walks, 14 home runs, a lot of hits allowed, almost a hit per inning pitched there. That should be a sign that if it's anything like the Rockies being able to stay locked in like they did over the last two series, this is again a guy that isn't having a season that's blowing you away, and this is your opportunity to go out there and handle business here and get after it. Or Baltimore's not playing, not having a quick start to the second half of the season, as they have only won 2 games to start the second half of the season, dropping series to Tampa Bay and Cleveland on the road. Now they're looking to get things right here with a series against Colorado, and then they got a tough one against Toronto up next. So this is a series again where you're not going to be favored, but you're not going to be too far behind if you're able to keep that momentum flowing, keep those things going, and bringing it to Baltimore throughout this series. One last thing before we go, the Diamondbacks making the first trade of trade deadline season. They got Josh Naylor from the Diamondbacks there, and the Diamondbacks, some other stuff that they were saying, the Diamondbacks are looking to, I can't remember where I saw this. I just saw it as people were retweeting things pretty rapidly on the timeline there. This was saying that the Diamondbacks are going into big time sell mode. And I think that this is kind of a something that, again, when you're kind of looking at the ways the Rockies can be different, I don't mind a team getting out there doing and being excited to get a deal done a little bit before the deadline. Now, especially if you're the Mariners, when you're looking to say, okay, like, if we want the help, we want to improve now. We have 2 series before the All-Star game here. You got to make sure that we can go in and get this guy that he can now come in and help us in for 4, 5, 6 games. Not the first game that they just played against the Angels there as of recording this. But I think this is something, if the Rockies are getting interest, if Houston really is interested in replacing Paredes with Ryan McMahon, and you strike while the iron's hot, you don't have to wait until the perceived pressure of the last second moment at the trade deadline to maybe get the best deal. I don't necessarily know if you have to be in that position to just hold on and wait, and then you gotta wait for the deadline for the flurry of deals to happen. Now it's fun and exciting and makes for a crazy day for fans and a crazy viewing experience, certainly. But you're also looking at a situation where it's just strike while the iron's hot, and hopefully the Rockies can keep the momentum alive throughout the weekend, play some winning baseball, and keep things the good times rolling. We got we'll have to hold on to our hopes, though, as it's a road series for the Rocks. We'll be breaking it all down right here on Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB and Locked On MLB Game Night. Plus, we got you covered when it comes to Colorado sports. Locked On Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, and Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.